In this video, I'm going to react to who would win World War III. Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. This is the place where I react to music, media, sports, anime, anything related to popular culture. I'll watch it with an open mind and give you my 100% honest reaction to it. And if you could please hit that like button early, I'd really appreciate it. Now, this video is going to be genuinely fascinating because, I mean, especially, like, where do I even begin? So there's been a lot of talk of potential tensions escalating between, you know, the world powers, whether they are the United States, China, you know, and this weekend or last weekend, China tested a hypersonic nuclear weapon that like circled the globe in just an incredible amount of time. And, you know, a lot of people are theorizing that this is just a show of power, you know, to basically warn adversaries that, you know, basically don't F with us. So even for me, someone who, you know, isn't exactly an expert in things, it does feel like, I don't know, like something potentially could be, you know, escalating behind the scenes. So a video like this, which was recommended to me, I think, who was it that recommended it to me? I think it might have been Ronald a few weeks ago. It's going to be really interesting just to kind of break down, you know, if, God forbid, a third world war did break out, you know, who could we expect to come out on top? And to be honest, it wouldn't really be on top because the amount of devastation that would happen to the planet would be huge. So yeah, I just know that it's going to be really fascinating. So let's go. It's going to be me reacting to who would win World War III. Let's do it.
World War III. That universal, morbid, curious question that everyone has thought about. You just have to take a look at our popular culture to see how movies like The Day After and games like Call of Duty envision these nightmarish possibilities in our world today. But what would this hypothetically look like? What would be the consequences of another world war? And who stands the best chance at winning? Well, let's find out. For most people, the easiest and most obvious image of a hypothetical war today is that of nuclear warfare. Since the Cold War, the number of nuclear weapons has decreased, but some countries still have them and have made their nukes more high-tech and sophisticated.
And to be honest, I wouldn't really believe the fact that numbers have decreased, because who's to say if countries are being completely forthright and honest? You know, like, why would, you know, a country like that's not under any particular duress, you know, why would they need to tell the truth, you know?
In the world today, there are 9 big players for such a war. The US, Russia, the United Kingdom, France, China, India, Pakistan, Israel, and North Korea. These are the only nuclear-armed countries in the world, with a total of 13,400 nuclear warheads between them. But interesting enough though, it is America and Russia who have been vying for first place, possessing 90% of all the world's nuclear weapons alone between them. Now let's look at the numbers. America has 6,185 total nuclear warheads, in comparison to Russia, who has about 6,800 in total.
To be honest, you know, even though Russia has, it looks like 10% more or something around that range, it doesn't really matter, because that is still 6,000 nukes is just an insanely huge amount of the most destructive weapon that known to man at this moment in time. You know, you've still got a lot of nukes.
A fairly neck-and-neck race, but what would it look like if they had some help? Over the years, Russia and China have developed a closer relationship with one another, and it is no secret that China is not America's biggest fan. China. So, it would be likely in an event of a third world war that China would become allied with Russia. With America as the common enemy between them, that would add an estimated 250 nukes that China has to Russia's nuclear arsenal. Although America is ranked #1 in the world for military power, this alliance would tip the balance even further in Russia's favor. And now, let's not forget about North Korea. Although only being ranked 25th in the world for military power and owning a mere 30 to 40 nuclear weapons, North Korea's military reputation is one of the most fearsome and volatile in the world. Due to their rather trigger-happy nature, it is possible that North Korea could act as a catalyst to the start of this hypothetical nuclear war. So if things played out this way, who would win World War III if it was a nuclear war? Well, realistically, no one. If these countries started dropping nukes on each other, chances are that'd be it.
Exactly. You know, it's been mentioned in other videos, but as soon as you bring nuclear weapons to the equation, there's no winner, because you're just going to destroy so much of, you know, the opposition. Like, there's going to be nothing left. Like, the land it will be irradiated, so you can't grow crops. You know, look at Chernobyl. You know, today they still can't grow crops there. Yeah, there's no winner here.
An end of the world type situation. But what if we take nuclear weapons out of the equation? Let's go ahead and take a deeper look at the traditional military strength of some of these candidates. Take two age-old military rivals, Britain and France. With only an hour and a half's ferry trip across the English Channel between these two countries, it would be a war very close to home, one relying on naval power and air superiority. As always, the UK and France are neck and neck when it comes down to military power. The UK holding place 8 in the world rankings, and France just beating them at place 7. By air and sea, it looks like France would have the upper hand, with 11 destroyers and 9 submarines, in comparison to Britain's 6 destroyers and 10 submarines. It would likely be a tough fight for the UK. But
yeah, I think a lot of people have been calling for you know, the government to increase its spending, its military spending, because, you know, we've been under austerity for quite a while. You know, austerity being just, you know, the tightening of the belt, essentially, financially. So yeah, we probably need to invest a bit more.
But let's go back to the idea of hypothetical allies. Although America has formed a strong relationship with France over the years, their number one ally since World War I has been the UK. Therefore, it would make sense and be a lot more likely that America would side with their British friends across the pond in a World War III scenario. And if we turn to France, it would be more likely that they would look to their neighbors, that being Germany, for help. In our modern day, the France and German alliance lies at the heart of the European Union, and it is therefore one of the strongest and most important military alliances today. The German military, although being heavily tamed following the atrocities of World War II, still holds a high place in the world rankings, sitting at number 13. If all these Western powers, however, were to form an alliance, this hypothetical war would change drastically.
Woohoo! B2 with, 2 F-22s in tandem. Oh, it's a scary sight.
With America's impressive air and naval forces, including one of the biggest destroyers in the world, the DDG-1000 Zumwalt, being...
So what is a destroyer? Is it literally, you know, just a weapon, like basically a weapon in the sea? Or do they serve, like, what purpose do they serve?
Roughly 600 feet long and the length of 13 double-decker buses. Needless to say, in this scenario, America and the Western European powers would be a force to be reckoned with. But let's strip it back even further and compare land and manpower, the actual feet that would be on the ground in World War III. Unsurprisingly, China has the largest number of military personnel in comparison to any other country, with just over 2.1 million active personnel and around 500,000 reserves. Sitting just behind China is India, ranked number 4 in the world for military power. In comparison, India has roughly 1.4 million active personnel and a whopping 2.1 million in reserves. Given the ongoing Sino-Indian border dispute over the territory between the two countries, and with reports of China crossing the border into Indian territory uninvited, it is likely that these two countries would be adversaries in a World War III scenario. If all active and reserve personnel from each side fought, there wouldn't be an easy and obvious winner. But take a look at each country's land forces, and we start to get a clearer picture. China has 3,500 tanks and a massive 33,000 armored vehicles, the second largest military collection of AUVs in the world behind America. In comparison,
It's quite formidable.
India does have around 4,300 tanks, but only around 8,500 armored vehicles, making this hypothetical World War III in some way skewed more in the favor of China. But who would be China and India's respective allies in this scenario? The United States would almost certainly come to India's aid against China, not just because of the obvious tensions between America and China, but due to the strength of the military relationship that America has forged with India in the recent years. America's number of active military personnel is pretty much equal to India's, and And with the US also sporting around 6,300 tanks and the largest number of armored vehicles in the world, India's chances would improve drastically. But what about Russia? It is difficult to say who Russia would choose to set up camp with, seeing as the country has strong ties with both China and India and considers them both essentially allies. India and Russia have recently been cozying up to each other. Russia has more tanks than any other nation in the world.
Really?
They also bring around 1 million active military personnel, 2 million reserves, and just over 27,000 armored vehicles to the table. And if Russia and the US were to play nice for India's sake,
I would have to think that military spending is probably one of the biggest expenses that any country has. Obviously for good reason, because you want it to be a deterrent. You know, you use it for power projection across the globe. But to think, of all the money that we spend on weapons and, on militaries, if we put like a little bit of that, into other things, we could probably improve, a whole host of things, education, health, perhaps. But, I'm not advocating for reducing military spending. I'm just amazed at, how much, we must spend, as a species.
in this World War III scenario, then there would be a fighting chance of defeating the Chinese. But China isn't the only nation going into territories that aren't its own. Take India, for example. Their relationship with their hostile neighbor Pakistan has been difficult for the years, to say the least. This tension has caused 4 very real wars between the two nations, mostly over the territories of Jammu and Kashmir, which both share borders with Pakistan, India, and China. The relationship between Pakistan and China, on the other hand, is a very different story. The two countries have one of the closest alliances in the world, China even considering Pakistan as its iron brother. India's growing alliance with the Western world has strengthened even more with the bond between the two countries, giving them a common enemy. Pakistan has roughly around 600,000 active military personnel, and pretty much the same amount of reserves as China. So China wouldn't be alone in this World War scenario.
Wow, look at the intensity.
As Pakistan would jump at the chance to help their military brother out and defeat India in the process. Take it with a grain of salt, it's all very well comparing the numbers between the countries, but nowadays biggest doesn't always mean the best. What about the actual military skills of the soldiers that make up these armies? What if we consider that one part of the military that is the focus of so many blockbuster movies? The Special Forces. In our world today, it only takes a handful of the best soldiers who can infiltrate any hostile situation for a war to be lost. And there are several units known exactly for that. Of the ones among these, the most effective units in the world by rank are France's GIGN, America's Navy SEALs, Israel's Sayeret Matkal, Russia's Spetsnaz, and the UK's SAS, which is considered to be the best special forces unit in the world, focusing primarily on special missions such as saving hostages taken deep behind enemy lines. These soldiers have to be incredibly disciplined, have unbelievable mental fortitude, and exceptional physical strength, with pass rates during training being as low as 7%. And it's not unheard of for soldiers to die during the testing process.
Yeah.
It can be definitely said that these soldiers are by far the best of the best, undergoing days upon days of intense physical and mental stress in the most demanding conditions, from jungles to deserts to the extremes of alpine environments. These soldiers alone are capable of enduring just about anything. Their understanding and proficiency with a variety of weapons makes them an impressive wildcard for superpowers to play out in the game of war. So in conclusion, who would win World War III? Out of all these scenarios, whether it be nuclear warfare, air and sea, or even by land and manpower, there are definitely a few obvious candidates for first place. In pretty much every area and aspect of the military, it seems to be a neck-and-neck race for the best between America, China, and Russia, as they are the top 3 countries that offer the best armies in the world. They are also the most attractive options for other countries when looking for allies, and the most fearsome adversaries for those who find themselves on the teams fighting against them. Luckily, we're only talking about this in hypothetical terms, and hopefully it will stay that way and 2020 doesn't throw another curveball that ends in World War III. How do you think a nightmare World War III situation would come out to be? And which countries do you think would come out on top? Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to be it from us here at Watch Data. If you did end up enjoying this video,
that was very, very interesting. And in the end, I'm not surprised the narrator of the video couldn't decide between the 3 big powers, the United States, Russia, and China. It's quite a difficult question to answer because the public has such limited knowledge about, the weapons that each of those countries have. We probably know about maybe 5 to 10% of the things that the special units, like DARPA, the things that they are working on, we probably know a very, very small amount of them. And it wouldn't surprise me if, God forbid, there was a World War III, for things to go in a completely different way to how we expect it. But yeah, hopefully there never is one, or at least in my lifetime, because, oh my goodness, we do not want to see it. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and keep throwing the recommendations my way. I know I say it all the time, but they genuinely help me out, because if I know you enjoyed watching something, I'll definitely enjoy reacting to it. So like, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, keep throwing the recommendations, and I'll catch you in the next one.